Hello, everyone. We shall be starting in just 1 second. So, welcome to our webinar. First and foremost, I wanted to thank you for attending. My name is Dr. Tracy Thomas. I am one of the group facilitators here at Circles. I am a psychologist with extensive experience in the mental health field. I've worked with many individuals, couples, families, and children. For those of you who don't know, Circles is a leading platform for emotional support that ensures no one needs to overcome life's challenges alone. It is built on the core principle that you need to be heard and supported by people who actually understand what you're going through to overcome life's challenges. Our platform matches people going through the same challenges in their lives, such as divorce, grief, and narcissism. Each circle is led by a mental health professional, such as myself, and together members support each other through their healing process. Before we get started, I just want to mention a few logistical things. This is a webinar, meaning there is one-way audio and video, so you can see and hear me, but I can't see or hear you. That being said, I do want to hear from you, and I will answer any questions or comments you may have. If you have any questions for me, you can submit them through the box on your screen. It's the chat box. And I don't see any questions yet. I will be tonight presenting on how to respond to gaslighting. I hope this webinar will be helpful in learning more about some responses that you can start using immediately. So let's get started. Very good. So, how many times in our lives have we heard someone in a TV series, or even to us, "You know, I only do it because I love you," to justify abusive behaviors? In this case, that is just one example of gaslighting. So, the term gaslighting came to be in the 1940s based on the movie Gaslight. In the movie, it depicted what our current definition of gaslighting is. As often as the term is used, many people really do not understand what it is unless they themselves have been a victim of it. And sometimes, even then, you're still not clear. So, tonight we will be discussing what is gaslighting, signs of gaslighting, the effects of gaslighting, and how do you respond to gaslighting. Gaslighting causes us to doubt our own memories, perceptions, and judgments. It throws us psychologically off balance. It's like being in the twilight zone. If you feel as though your self-esteem, confidence, and dignity has withered under the flame of gaslighting, you're not alone. By Dana Arcuri. It's just kind of like this gaslighting confusion that you may feel. So, what is gaslighting? According to the American Psychological Association, gaslighting was once referred to as manipulation so extreme as to induce mental illness or to justify the commitment of the gaslighted person to a psychiatric institution, but now it is used more generally. Gaslighting is a form of manipulation, especially in abusive relationships. Gaslighting occurs most commonly in romantic relationships, although it can occur in all types of relationships where there is an imbalance of power. The gaslighter intentionally misleads the victim into questioning their reality by creating a false narrative of events. The goal of the gaslighter is to make their victim doubt themselves, their sense of identity, perception, and worth. So what gaslighting isn't. Normal disagreements are common and even crucial in a relationship. Healthy conflict and resolving a dispute are part of a typical relationship. The difference between normal conflict and gaslighting is that only one of you is listening and being considerate of the other person's perspective and feelings and thoughts. In contrast, the other negates the perception, insisting you're mistaking and calling your reaction crazy. You're not being overly sensitive, and they are not respecting your feelings. Your feelings when in a gaslighting situation are not valued. But in a normal situation, your feelings is to change your reality, is to deal with how you feel. So having a conflict is normal and basically a part of human life. Well, you cannot expect individuals to agree on everything most of the time. There will always be a part wherein conflicts will enter even if you don't want it to. No matter how you avoid it, it will still continue to emerge. So how gaslighting works. According to Psychology Today, victims of gaslighting are deliberately and systematically fed false information that leads them to question what they know to be accurate, often about themselves. They may end up doubting their memory, perception, and even their sanity. Over time, a gaslighter's manipulation can grow more complex and potent, making it increasingly difficult for the victim to see the truth. So it's all done through manipulation and lies. So who gaslights? Master manipulators who want to control others. Someone who believes that their feelings matter more than the other people around them. Some gaslighters have personality disorders such as narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorders. So a gaslighter also leads their victims to feel self-doubt. So why do they gaslight? Manipulative people who engage in gaslighting do so to attain their power over their victims, either because they simply do it for enjoyment from the act, or they desire to control their victim emotionally, physically, or financially. The goal is always to weaken resistance, to break your spirit, appear blameless, and create chaos and confusions. So the two main reasons that this occurs is for intentional control, to destabilize their partner, to basically allow them to be complete control of the relationship and make you doubt yourself. It also happens because the gaslighter is taught by a parent, and sometimes the behavior that they are exhibiting is used as a survival mechanism, and they have learned it as a child and they have continued to use it as an adult. It doesn't excuse their behavior. There just might be a reason why. So intentionality. So with a gaslighter, it's an insidious and persistent pattern of behavior that keeps you questioning yourself and those around you while slowly eroding your self-esteem and even your identity. So there's a belief, and there's an intention, and there's a desire, and there's a skill. So they're challenging your belief with the desire to control you. They have this, they're a manipulator, they're skillful manipulator, and sometimes they are aware of what they're doing. But the intention is to cause you to off balance, which is going to definitely define intentionality. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that it could be a learned behavior. So I'd like to explore that a little bit more. It is taught by a parent. So, of course, that means it's a generational behavior that is taught repeatedly. It's a learned behavior that they use to survive whatever issues that is going on within the home. So children were taught, or the gaslighter as an adult, were taught that the gaslighting is the only way to reduce anxiety and the feeling of being overwhelmed. So children are sometimes even taught to this day how to gaslight. People are not born gaslighters. It is socially learned. According to Susan McKillen, children learn from a gaslighting parent that they are the golden child who can do no wrong, or they learn that they are a scapegoat who is blamed for doing everything wrong. Sarkis adds that this teaches the child a false belief that people operate in absolutes, that people are either all good or all bad without any gray areas. So they learn to start behaving that way towards others as if this is true and this is all concrete and this is all that they have ever learned. So some gaslighting techniques that they use. So some of the things they do is they constantly criticize, they blame, they verbally abuse, they use intimidation, they deny responsibility, they minimize that abusive behavior, and make subtle to more outspoken comments about being dissatisfied in the relationship. So some of the things that you would hear is, you need help. You're so emotional. Why are you so defensive all the time? I never did that. You're the one who's lying. Why are you even here if you think I'm so terrible then? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. That didn't happen. I didn't say that. On and on. So some signs that you're being gaslighted. This list is not all inclusive and does not always mean you're being gaslighted. These are just some of the signs that you may need to be made aware of. Keep in mind that this actually occurs gradually, and sometimes it makes it very difficult to detect. So some of those would be countering, withholding, trivializing, denial, diverting, stereotyping, and there's also a lack of boundaries. So their actions don't match their words. They distract from their behavior by projecting onto you. They make degrading comments followed by positive reinforcement. They attempt to block or are unsupportive of your growth. They lie and deny things, even when there's proof. They tell you you're wrong, crazy, and imagining things. But as I went through all of those signs of gaslighting, we will actually go through each one individually into a little bit more detail. So part of countering is questioning your memories. So an example would be, how your memory is, or are you sure about that? Or you never remember anything the way it happened. So why do you even saying that now? You know that's not true. That never happened that way. What are you talking about? Withholding. So withholding occurs when they refuse to speak about an issue. So for example, if you find that there's something going on and you wanted to talk about it because you want to get it clear and out of the open, it's common to hear, what are you talking about? Or I don't know what you are even talking about. Or you don't make any sense. So withholding is one of the most toxic forms of abuse. So that you, again, a refusal to communicate, listen, or rejoice in one's good fortune. Trivializing. This is another way of gaslighting. It involves making the victim believe his or her thoughts or needs aren't important, such as, you're going to let something like that come between us? In this case, you feel belittled and your feelings are disregarded. It's for another example, you might be accused of being too sensitive or overreacting, even though your thoughts, concerns, and emotions are valid. Remember that your emotions are always valid. There's nothing wrong with it. Denial. Denial is another way that another sign. So this person intentionally denies something that you know happened. I mean, you can have the proof, you can have pictures, you can have videos, you have everything, but they make you question your memories. And sometimes they may even accuse you of making things up. Of course, when this happens repeatedly, you wonder, what's wrong with me? Is that really what happened? You can even see the pictures and wonder, is this true? So to always keeping track of what really happened, this can be something that we'll talk further about later on. So diverting. When this happens, the things you say are minimized and the focus is changed. So for example, you may be told that you're being influenced by friends, by families, or what you hear or see on social media. This may be compounded by the person doing whatever you suggested later and then being told that they do not recall that idea was yours. So it would be something like, oh, we should go on vacation to Florida. And they're like, no, 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 I don't want to go there. And 2 or 3 months later, they say, hey, we should go to vacation on Florida. And when you bring it up like that was my idea, it's like, that never happened. You're crazy. And then you begin wondering, what if I'm remembering it wrong? Maybe I am crazy. And then they also tell you it's all your fault. And then you think, maybe it is my fault. So stereotyping. To manipulate you, a gaslighter may intentionally use negative stereotypes regarding a person's gender, race, age, ethnicity, nationality, or sexuality. An example is, all women are crazy. Or, no one will believe you if you seek help, since women are always making those accusations. Or, what do you mean? Men don't get abused. So they use that to say, basically, anything that may cause discrimination or any thoughts that you may have, your own fears or your own misconceptions about yourself, they tend to find those and they use those against you. So even any small minimal thoughts that you may have or major thoughts that you may have, they turn it around and make it as if those are the reasons other people will not believe you whenever you are trying to express that you feel that they're wrong. So another thing is boundaries. They think I'm not the problem. It is a trigger from gaslighting. And some of the things you have to do is set some boundaries. But one of the things that you will have to understand is gaslighters, they don't have any boundaries. They tend to get angry and lash out if you try to enforce them. They don't want to hear, oh, maybe we shouldn't go out right now, or this is not a good time to call, or anything that is regarding keeping the distance between you and them. They'll just get angry at you. And of course, they'll say something that makes you question your own self-esteem. So types of gaslighting. And there are so many different types of it. So most people think of gaslighting in the context of romantic relationships, but it can occur in other settings as well. Some of those settings are going to be with child-parent relationships and the medical profession and racial gaslighting, institutional gaslighting. There are a few other places as well, but those are the ones that we will be focused on tonight. So intimate partner relationships. We'll start off with that one because that's a big one. So in this situation, as someone who's gaslighting, they want to isolate you. As you become more isolated, you become easier to control and your self-esteem becomes lower. And when your self-esteem becomes lower, it makes it difficult for you to want to leave. And if you are told something repeatedly, you may start to believe the lie is true. So remember that gaslighting is a form of abuse. So gaslighting phrases in relationships that kill love: stop being so insecure, stop exaggerating, that never happened. That's one of their favorites. You need help. You're just being paranoid. Stop imagining things. The problem isn't with me, it's in you. You're way too emotional. Stop being dramatic. That was never my intention. Forget about it now. Don't make such a huge deal out of it. You have zero emotional security. You're making this up. You're overthinking. Stop taking it so seriously. You're just jealous. Can't you take a joke? You're just misconstruing my intentions. You're remembering it all wrong. So some of the top warning signs you're being gaslighted in your relationships: your fears are used against you. You know your own mind. You start thinking, maybe you really are the crazy one. You start wondering, what's normal? You're diagnosed with major issues. You doubt your own beliefs and perceptions. You can't remember anything anymore. You lie to keep the peace, and you stop trying to be heard, and you are depressed. In a child-parent relationship, it's a little bit different. In this one, some parents use gaslighting to control or shame their children. The children's feelings are belittled, and the child may be told that they do not remember events accurately. It's the same as in intimate partner relationships, but it's being done to a child. So some of the reasons why it happens in a child-parent relationship is that the parent is trying to turn the child against the other parent. They tend to blame the child for the problems in the home. Parents lie to their children for no reason. They never acknowledge their own mistakes, never adapting to the child's needs, using insults in response to behavioral problems like you suck, you're a loser, and over controlling and critical for no reason. And unfortunately, it does happen in the medical professions. And this is sometimes when used to minimize mental health. Some doctors may accuse patients of their symptoms being in their head. Medical gaslighting happens when healthcare professionals downplay symptoms or explain away symptoms with non-medical or emotional reasons. This leads patients to doubt themselves or think that they are exaggerating their own conditions. It can result in more and prolonged pain for the patient, putting their well-being or even their lives at risk. So some of the signs of it is being dismissed, feeling like you're crazy, and the medical professionals minimizing your symptoms and being blamed. An example of this would be you are feeling pain, but your doctor would tell you that because they can't find what's wrong with you, that you need to see a psychiatrist or a therapist. And later on, you find out that there was something medically wrong. And because of this, it can be years before whatever it is, if they're not doing the proper referrals, for you to actually get uh, help with whatever the symptoms that you may be having or whatever the problem may be. And so this continues over and over again, and it can happen for years. So those are just that's just an example of that. So there is such a thing as racial gaslighting. So according to Medical News Today, racial gaslighting occurs when people apply gaslighting techniques to a group of people based on race or ethnicity. The experience of the victim is minimized even though there is evidence otherwise. So an example would be, if you protested, blah, 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 said it peacefully, more people would listen to you. What I said or did is not racism. Racist. Racism doesn't exist anymore. It was just a joke. Calm down. Blank people are racist too. Why is it always about race? Are you sure that's what happened? Just to play devil's advocate here, da 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 da. In my opinion, I don't think they were being racist. I think whatever. So once again, racial gaslighting is a ways individuals or institutions try to manipulate or question people of color's sense of reality, often to assert or maintain control, superiority, or power. Institutional gaslighting. Institutional gaslighting occurs at a company level, organizational level. It is a form of harassment. The organization may deny or hide information from employees. They lie to and about their employees. They portray anyone who speaks out against the company or employers as mentally ill or incompetent. They try to convince a boss that someone needs to be fired or someone praising you face to face, and then they talk about poorly about you behind your back. Another one is being excluded from pertinent meetings that actually affect you or clients that you're serving. This also occurs when someone who berates or shames you in front of colleagues and then speaks to you as nothing happened. So this person can be yelling and screaming at you and you have no idea what's happening. They could be making a complete scene in the office and then they turn around the next day or even a couple hours later and they start talking to you as if they did not just do that. And it can lead you to feel completely confused and off balance and emotionally distraught because you're not sure what just happened. So, the lies. It starts with a lie. Each day, the lies amplify. Time goes by. The lies turn to gaslighting. Eventually, the lies become smears about you. So, what are the signs of gaslighting? Victims sometimes struggle to recognize that they are being abused. There are multiple reasons that a victim questions, such as being dependent or being in an authoritative position. So, there are 8 signs that you may feel. The National Domestic Violence Institute identifies the following 8 signs that you may feel. You may feel confused and constantly second guess yourself. You may find it difficult to make simple decisions. You may frequently question if you're being too sensitive. You become withdrawn or unsociable. You're always apologizing to the abusive person. You defend the abusive person's behavior. You even lie to your family and friends to avoid having to make excuses for them. And you feel hopeless, joyless, worthless, or incompetent. So there are some other signs. Some of this, like questioning yourself. You're questioning your reality. You often feel confused and even crazy in the relationship. You can't understand why you aren't happier. You know something is wrong, but you just don't know what. You start lying to avoid put downs and reality twists. You have trouble making simple decisions. You even wonder if you're good enough. This is another person who's actively causing you self-doubt. You've got to remember that this other person who's doing the gaslighting is doing this intentionally to cause you self-doubt. So there are some everyday events that some gaslighters do not know how to deal with, which sometimes precedes the gaslighting. These are money, sex, family of origin, which is your side of the family, and habits that they do not like. So when they're a little stressed about money or you won't give them money, of course, they're going to gaslight you. If, for example, it's about sex, whether or not you're not having enough sex or you're having too much sex or they want whatever reasons, that's the other one. And if they don't like your side of the family or they want to actually use your family against you, those would be some other reasons that they would gaslight. And of course, anything they don't like. So these are some normal things that occur in your life that may also precede some of the gaslighting events. There are 4 levels of gaslighting: unconscious gaslighting, awareness something is off, intentional, and they're more aware of an impact, but no intent to seriously harm, or malicious intent with the desire to harm. These are the 4. We are actually going to go over each level in a little bit more detail. So what is unconscious gaslighting? This person is completely unaware that they're engaging in it. So not every person who gaslights even know that they're doing it. So sometimes they think they're being reasonable, but they have no idea of the impact that they are engaging in. And they have no idea that they are actually gaslighting you. They may not have the capacity to consider another person's viewpoint. So an example would be, I don't get it, where they don't understand no matter how hard you try to communicate, or that you feel like you're living on 2 different planets where you say one thing and the other person responds with something different. So uh, another example would be, I want to go eat lunch at um somewhere, and the person responds with, so last night for dinner we had da 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 da. So where you actually are feeling like, are we having 2 different conversations, or they may be talking about something completely different. So in this sense, they are just they just don't, they have a hard time seeing your point of view. Another one, awareness something is off. So they themselves have a lack of awareness. They understand that something is wrong, but they don't know what it is. Because of this lack of awareness, they continue to behave in their usual way. So another example would be endless tyrant of words, where not only where they were saying was not, or sorry, what you were saying was not acknowledged, but what was being said was excessive and overwhelmingly off topic. So it's them talking, 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 and you feel like they didn't hear one word that you said. And whenever they do, it's completely off the topic of what you were talking about. So you may be expressing your concerns or your desires, and they're talking about dinner. The next one's intentional. In this one, they have more aware of an impact, but their intent is not to seriously harm. This person understands a little more of awareness of their impact, but they're in denial in what they are doing is harmful. They are more concerned about winning than hurting the other person. So they feel like they're in constant competition with you. So here's an example of this. It would be considered stonewalling. And stonewalling is refusing to answer what was said, or here's an example of a conversation. I'm reaching out because I'm concerned. There's no need to be concerned. Well, I am, and I wanted to talk to you about it. But you don't have to be. Can we talk about my concern? You don't respect my thoughts and feelings, so I'm no longer talking to you. You're left in complete bewilderment, and the gaslighter might be confused also. So just even approaching them to voice your concerns, they turn it against you as if you are no longer concerned about them. So instead of listening, it's not about you anymore. It becomes them. Some red flags of the gaslighter who has malicious intent with a desire to harm. These are blatant lies. Denial, even though you have proof. A constant barrage, which starts off slowly and gradually increases. They keep you unbalanced, expresses how little value you are, and then praising you for something else. They understand the effect of causing constant confusion and intentionally does so. They project their behavior on you, blaming you for infidelity when they are the ones doing so. So you're not doing anything, but they're saying that you are to excuse their own behavior. Isolating you. They try to line others against you, calling you crazy. They tell others or you that they think you're crazy, calling others around you liars. They try to convince you that other people are lying about them or any situation. Backhand apologies or compliments, such as, you look almost as good as you once did. I'm sorry that you don't understand me. Blamed. You are blamed for their behavior. You made me do it. Questioning self. They insinuate that you are not being honest to yourself. You also would be apologize without knowing what you did wrong. Like, oh, sorry. They give you affection and then they abruptly yank it away. When you try to explain how you feel, they're dismissive. You're overreacting, or you're just too sensitive. They insist it didn't happen that way. You find yourself questioning your beliefs and opinions. If your point of view doesn't match theirs, it's wrong. There's always an imbalance of power. They assign motives to your actions that are the opposite of your intentions. So you meant to do that. Okay. And most interactions leave you feeling small or ashamed. You edit every word before you speak it. So you constantly thinking about what you're saying and before you even say one word. You're changing any thought that could possibly be misconstrued. In terms of gaslighting, it causes a false narrative. Rose Rosenberg says, I define it as to implant false and or distorted narratives that are specially designed or formulated to manipulate a person into a destructive web of deception, a loss of control, and the surrender of personal freedom and beliefs of self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, and productivity. There are many gaslighting effects, but today we will talk about 4 of them, which would be anxiety, depression, psychological trauma, and gaslighting that can lead to physical abuse. So anxiety and depression, we're going to talk about it together. It causes chronic stress and severe emotional distress. That's what gaslighting. The constant questioning of yourself wears on your self-confidence and your self-worth. As you constantly question your reality, it can lead to anxiety and or depression. It can affect your functioning in every aspect of your life. It also causes you to not feel good enough, being unsure of what is real. You might feel like you're in a brain fog, so feeling like you're not there and your reality is not true. It teaches you to be afraid to speak up and you don't trust your own one. As you are experience it, your confidence is decreased. And you find your confidence is not only decreased, but also the self-worth is. You may feel that you have a difficulty making decisions and you may have breakdowns and you apologize for everything. You second guess your reality. So all of this causes issues with mental health. Consistent gaslighting can have long-lasting and detrimental effects on the victim's mental health. The victim may believe that they deserve the abuse. The effects can still be present after the gaslighter is no longer in your life, where you experience constant self-doubt and having difficulties making decisions. And if you have a previous history of mental illness, it is used against you. You can be a diagnosis of mental illness is used as a platform for blame. When your mental illness is at fault for every problem that arises in your relationship, you could be a victim of gaslighting. So it's this consistent attacks on you. It's trauma. Someone who has a history of abuse or trauma is more vulnerable, as the gaslighter tends to say things out loud that you have repeated to yourself in the past. So as it is, when you don't trust your own judgments, you have a decreased decision making ability, you've got more anxiety, you've got more depression, you are feeling already have a low self-esteem, and you already are stressed out, and those are some just minor symptoms of trauma or expressions of trauma. The gaslighter tends to use all of that against you. It's not okay for someone you like to treat you poorly and then pretend it didn't happen, making you question your own grasp on reality. This dynamic is called gaslighting. It's a common tactic of abusers to shift the focus of the blame from their bad behavior onto the person they are victimizing. One important side effect of gaslighting is having your memory black out after a fight, because your brain is trying to protect you from the cruelty of the abuse, which results in not being able to remember how an argument started. You may start to internalize the idea that there is something wrong with you and that you did something to provoke the situation, as you're increasingly beaten down and confused. So, responding to gaslighting. As gaslighting has a significant impact on your mental health, it is imperative to take care of yourself. If you are in an abusive environment, safety is of utmost importance. So, whenever you're talking to a gaslighter, pay attention. Pay attention to what is being said. Be willing to stop the conversation, as you do not want it to be heated. Ignore. Distance yourself from anyone who is constantly telling you that you're crazy or making you doubt yourself. The more distance you have between you and that person, the better off you will actually feel, and you'll actually be able to see things more clearly. Question anyone who makes you think that everyone agrees with them and not you. So that is never going to be the case. Not everyone is always going to disagree with you. There's always going to be a middle point, and people actually are aware that there is two sides of every story. So when they are saying things like, oh, everyone agrees with me and they don't agree with you, they're wanting you to use others as ammunition against you. So the way to counter that is talk to those around you. Talk to the people that they are saying they agree with that other person and not you. Because in reality, you want to be able to hear from the person who they are saying agrees with them and not you. Remembering, it is not you. It's not you. It's always about them. The gaslighter are 100% responsible for their behavior. Put it back on them. Of course, when you're questioning yourself and you're wondering what's going on, it's easier to take responsibility than to actually put it back on them. But you've got to remind yourself, you are not in control of their behavior. You're only in control of your own. So part of that is gathering evidence. Since you're starting to question your memories and you're wondering what's going on, it is essential to write down what is occurring. Some things to write down are the dates, the times, and detailed events. So if you're concerned about your safety, it would be better to do this in secret so the information is also not erased, and also to make sure that you maintain your own mental health and your own memories, because if you're writing it down, you can always refer back to your list, and you can refer back to the details, and you can remember, even if it's a year or 6 months from now, you will be able to remember that it really did happen. And it's not, once again, it's not you that don't remember, it's the gaslighter who's trying to make you question your own memories. So documentation can not only be used in a personal relationship, but you can also use it when an employer is gaslighting you. It also helps you to sort out the truth from distortion. You can write it down and read it objectively to see what's real and what's not. Process your thoughts and emotions after reading it. So you don't want to keep all of that inside of you as well. You want to be able to think about it and later just identify how you feel when you wrote it versus how you feel later on, because you can actually feel a sense of relief afterwards. Talk to someone you trust. This helps with having an objective viewpoint, and they can also create an additional record that is not at home. So you can write down, you can have somebody you trust to write down what you're telling them, so they have a record for you, and as well as you have one at home. They can also give you an objective opinion. And sometimes you feel that you just, maybe you do feel like you're crazy, and maybe you feel like there's something wrong, or maybe you want to blame yourself, but this person going to say, no, that's not true. So you want to ask this person, whoever you're speaking to be brutally honest about what they see. So one of the question is to ask is if and how you have changed, because you want to know if your behavior or some things about you have changed. Maybe you're not the same person you were before you met the gaslighter versus who you are now, because at that time sometimes their observation can be that light bulb that turns on. You also want to ask them what they have observed about the other person's behavior, because that can actually help to clarify for you if they are seeing some of the same things that is going on for yourself. Take pictures. Pictures are a concrete way to remember what happened. Once again, if you're in an unsafe situation, you also want to make sure that these pictures are kept in a location that is going to keep you safe. You never want to put yourself in a position where you can get hurt, or anything of that nature. So some things you can also do is keep voice memos. You can use a device to record what happens that can be stored on your phone, can be stored in another location, can be sent to another person. However it may be, that may be easier than writing it down. And also, once again, it keeps you keeps you remembering what your reality is. You don't, especially in this situation, you tend to question it. So it helps. Identify the problem. So recognize and name the problem. Name what you're seeing. If you are suspecting that you're being gaslighted, or you're suspected that something's not quite right, identify it. Identify what you're seeing. Identify how you might yourself may be changing, because once you identify the problem and what you're seeing, it's easier to start making changes for the betterment. Identify if there is a power struggle. One of the ways to identify that is asking yourself, are you having the same conversation repeatedly? And are they refusing to acknowledge your point of view? And if these are both happening, you may be in a power struggle. You may be in a position where you are trying to figure out who you are, while that person is trying to change your reality. Some other ways you can do is visualize. So visualization would be imagining what your life would be without that person being in your life, or without being in that relationship. What is your reality? What is your truth? Whom do you have to support you? Who can you go to? If you can sit there and think about what you were like before versus what you are like now, it helps you to understand and identify how you yourself have changed. And hopefully, if you identify, visualize your future, it can help you to make some different steps and make some changes in your life. Feel your emotions. Acknowledge and accept that your feelings are valid. They are okay. You can feel whatever you feel, and it's okay to feel that way. Sometimes you even want to track your emotions, whether it be in an app, and there are many, many applications that will help you with that, or even in your notes. These will actually help you to see the changes that have happened. And if you've got any concerns, you can always take them to your doctor, and you all can definitely have that conversation. Let go. Permit yourself to let go. Giving up in an intimate or close relationship can be one of the most challenging and most painful things to go through. Although it hurts, staying in a toxic relationship is even worse for your mental health. It's better to take care of you, and its only way to take care of somebody else is by making sure that you yourself is okay. The longer you're in a toxic relationship, the more it affects your physical health, your emotional health, and every other aspect of your life, relationships with others. And if you've got children, your relationship with your children. It can also teach your children to behave in a similar manner, whether it be with you or with somebody in their future. So this would be a continuous of the generational problems that have been developed within the person who has learned to be a gaslighter. You may be passing that on to your own child or your own children. So giving yourself permission to let go would be actually better for you. Switching your focus from who is right and who is wrong. That's not important. Who's right and wrong is not it. You want to think about something else, and instead of how do you feel about the conversation? How do you feel after it's over? Are you feeling mentally healthy, or are you feeling completely off balance? When you actually switch from a winning and losing to an emotional thoughts and emotional feelings and what you are actually getting out of the conversation, the focus switches from dealing with someone who's gaslighting to dealing with yourself. You are only in control of yourself. So one of the questions you ask yourself is, whom can you control? And reminding yourself, you can only control yourself and how you react. You can't control anyone else, and you can't control their behavior. You can't control their emotions, and you can't control how they react to you. You must work on self-love. So working on yourself, as it will help build your emotional awareness and self-regulations. Don't look for your worth in people or productivity. Speak to yourself with true compassion. Say no without hesitation. Being able to put your phone down and know yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Self-care is even more important now to focus on during your healing process. Seek help. If you're questioning what is occurring, you can seek professional help. If you're being abused, you can contact a domestic violence agency for advice and receive assistance in creating a safety plan. You could talk to a therapist or a psychologist, as well as join a support group such as circles. And there's the referral. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger of domestic abuse, call 911 or otherwise seek emergency help. Anyone who needs help, advice, or support can contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline 24/7 via phone at 800-799-7233, live chat at thehotline.org, or text by texting love is to 22522. The secret to healing is when you learn that you had the power all along. The brainwashing phase and the fears retreat as you rebuild and create the happiest you. Be strong and fight for the future of drinking lemonade in peace. So, is there any questions that I see? Let's see. Yes. So, here's one. I noticed that I do some of these behaviors that were mentioned here. Does that mean that I'm a gaslighter? Great question, Amy. Not necessarily, but it does indicate that you have to work on some of your communication skills. Mm. Yes. How does gaslighting begin? So, that's such a great question, John. A relationship with a gaslighter may seem to start out quite well. They may praise the victim on a first date and immediately confide in him. Such disclosure before any intimacy has been established establishes trust quickly. It's part of a tactic known as love bombing. The more quickly a victim becomes enamored, the more quickly the next phase of manipulation can begin. Yes. What are your thoughts about joining the support group? Thank you for asking that one. Having others to support you through this is very powerful. Others can help you counter your doubts, and connecting with others can help you feel not so alone. Yes. Oh, I think that is all the questions that I may have. Let me stay here. So, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I want to take a moment to thank you for attending this webinar with an open mind and heart. I know gaslighting is very painful. Just being here shows how much you want to understand. I hope you are leaving today feeling better, having taken the first step on your healing journey. Now that you've taken the first step, joining circles would be a fantastic second step. You'll have a group of people who not only know exactly what you're going through, but are going to support you every step of the way. You'll receive an email shortly with details on how to join. And starting now, you no longer have to learn how to live with gaslighting all by yourself. Thank you again for joining and have a great rest of your night.